Hi, good evening, guys. We have Mr. Mark Milstein with us. He's the CEO and founder of Microstocksolutions. He has offices in Budapest, New York, as well as South Dakota. That's where his headquarters is. Microstocksolutions provides software-based as well as human-based services to the media industry, like keywording, video editing, curation, checking of media data, and so forth. I know Mark for the last 14 years, and it's a pleasure to have him on board to talk about the future prospects as well as the current problems of COVID. Welcome, Mark. How are you doing?
Just fine. Thank you very much, Avinash, for having me on board.
So I believe you are in Budapest right now. How are things out there?
Well, I'm in Budapest. That's correct. Things are a lot better here than many other places, like New York. As I was saying a little bit earlier, I'm expecting that most companies will be back to work at least on a single shift by next Monday, the 4th of May. Right now, almost near everybody is working from home.
Wow.
And looking forward to seeing everybody back after almost 6 weeks of home work.
So from work point of view, you're not, I mean, I'm gonna keep it very straight with the questions. There are three sets of questions here. One is, how is your industry affected? How are clients affected? It's a part of question one. And then what do you see a photographer or a creative person should do during this lockdown? You work worldwide, you have a lot of clients and staff worldwide as well. What do you see they should do during this time? And
right. So
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that what scared us the most was that our clients who are exclusively reliant upon the uploading and shooting of video and photography by armies of mostly amateur and freelance photographers would be literally left without any content to manage. And that has not proven to be the case, at least with our MicroStock and stock clients. The volumes are down, yes, but not in the way that I had sort of expected or imagined. And what we were seeing now is that a lot of photographers, a lot of videographers have gone back into their archives and have dug out a lot of older material, things that they perhaps would have not uploaded originally. I heard the other day from a videographer that we work with in the Ukraine, who told me that he has learned how to do macro photography and has gone into producing some really unique macro photography of in his home because he can't go to his studio. And so while yes, the volumes are down significantly, the creativity is not. In fact, the creativity of the contributors is still there. They're just working with much less.
In the end, the industry, the stock photography industry, depends on advertisements, right? They are advertisement clients, and the more the advertisements, when the economy is doing great, you'll see a lot of marketing budget spending in advertisements. Now, what I read was the advertisement spends have gone down drastically, of course, with the entire measures. So you've seen some of your stock agencies also getting affected in the short term, at least.
Yeah, as I said, there's very little fresh content being created right now. Yeah. Most of the work that we're doing is on archival material, and so those videographers that have been able to reinvent themselves and shoot at home or shoot within the immediate vicinity of their home, or they're lucky enough to be someplace where they're not being affected directly by the virus, meaning that they're outside of, let's say, New York, they're outside of London, they're outside of Los Angeles, so on and so forth. They've been much more fortunate than those photographers who are reliant upon studios, makeup artists, models. That kind of a scenario for the short term and perhaps even immediate long term is going to be very much curtailed. So we're going to see a negative impact in that realm for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Well, I spoke to one of the photographers last week, and he mentioned how he's using this downtime. He's a completely commercial photographer based on assignments. He said no assignments are going to come through. Even if the assignments are going to come through when the lockdown gets over, it's not going to be the same budgets the clients were ready to pay. So he's using this particular time to kind of enhance his own skills, right? And
Right.
and learn new ways of lighting. Learn, like you said, somebody is doing a macro level of shoots, how to do micro levels of shoots as well. People who have studios in house, they are learning new ways, new techniques as well, how to
Yes.
train. Do you also suggest that to your photographers as well internally?
All the time. In fact, that's come up time and time again with many of the photographers who we consider to be super producers.
Yeah.
In other words, these guys work with us directly as opposed to through the agencies. They are industries unto themselves. They're producing hundreds or perhaps even thousands of pieces of content throughout the year. They look to us for all kinds of advice, and that's exactly what you've just said right now. That's exactly what we've told them, that they should, attempt to reinvent themselves. Look closer to home for subject matter. And so they've done so either very successfully or not so successfully. Some people just are not going to be able to make the transition. It's not going to be even, in other words, success is not guaranteed.
Mm-hmm. Do you think with once the lockdown, because the lockdown is different in different countries, right?
Yes.
So without taking the name of the stock agency, the MicroStock agency, one of the largest MicroStock agencies do fear a big cut given by them to the photographers, because they have to pay their salaries to their current staff. So they said that's a big cost on them without having much incomes coming through right now. So that burden, they said, might be passed on. It's an internal source, might be passed onto the photographers, which sounds a little unfair, especially when especially when the stock photographer is relying on the incomes to come through as well.
Well, that's very much true. I mean, we're seeing that the queue numbers among our biggest clients are lower. That's a fact. That was predicted, as I said earlier in the conversation.
Yeah.
It's come true. There are benefits to that. I mean, a micro benefit is that content that comes in on a Monday is in most cases out by Tuesday, or literally on the website by Tuesday. So the wait time for content to be available to potential clients is lowered. Quicker time to market, so to speak. However, as you just described, the volume being low means that the infrastructure that they presently have in place with the thousands of employees or hundreds of employees, the enterprise client side will be impacted. Yes, we're expecting to see that happen shortly.
So when talking about the enterprise level of customers, I know you work with a couple of large customers as well. Are they also working? I think few of them are in New York. Are they also working? It's a complete lockdown to kind of do anything, or is it just the art? Yeah.
So the answer to your question is I worried about that. In that fact, I thought that was going to be the first portion of our business to be directly affected. In other words, if there was very little advertising, or there was a lesser degree of advertising being created now during this crisis, then there would be very little need for enterprise support, and that the enterprise clients would fade away slowly. But that actually in the first month has not been the case. Interestingly, looking at the numbers year to year, meaning if you look back at last March, I have not done a modeling for the month of April yet, because the month is not over with. But during the month of March, the numbers are similar to last year, which is quite good to hear. It bodes well. I will do my modeling for the month of April, probably the first week of May, so 1 week from today.
Mm-hmm. I also spoke to one of well-known boutique stock photography, and they mentioned they have quite a bit of staff on board. For companies like us, like yours and mine, they say we have a big opportunity right now, because they cannot afford those kind of salaries in the Western world, but they still need the help, right? They still need services as well. So they're looking to outsource these kind of work more to companies like us. with much reduced cost what they were paying internally in their own country as well. Are you seeing that trend as well coming your way?
Yes. Interestingly enough, it's funny you should mention that, because just the other day received a very interesting letter from a client that I had expected would be, would have slowed down dramatically, because they rely upon videographers and photographers to be out there working with models and things. And the fact that they have this idea to increase their business with us came as a surprise in one area. I thought, wow. It was, I thought about it in the back of my head. It was like this kind of a, would it happen? Will it happen? And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, the latter part of last week came in a letter explaining that, as you just described, that's going on with them locally, and that they still want to do certain things. And cost is a factor here. And they asked whether or not the prices were still relevant from last year, on the latter part of last year, meaning around November, December. I indicated that they were, but nothing has changed. And so they're gonna bring that on board with us very shortly, probably in the next 2 weeks.
In India, we are all working from home. It's a complete lockdown. Only the essential services are working. Even though India is a great service-oriented country, we still are lagging in terms of infrastructure for the employees. We're talking about the top 3 or 5 IT companies. They've done extremely well. We've heard from one of the large IT-based company out of Bangalore, the CEO mentioning that this could be a boon for us, because we were expecting to have more people work from home. Now this is a forced way where we have to work from home. And he started seeing a lot of productivity happening. And his goal by 2025 is have only 25% of staff working from office, 75% of staff actually working from home. Because now with this forced way of working from home, people are kind of adapting to it and liking the idea as well. And,
right.
And companies like us can take advantage of that as well, right? Because even though we have tight deadlines, it's still manageable from home. I've seen my staff enjoying working from home now, with keeping securities and the assets in place properly through our servers. They said we're getting 2 hours of more time to work because they've saved on commute time.
Exactly.
Do you see that?
So
do you see that with your employees, or with a trend from working from home? I've seen a few of my friends work from home as well, and it's worked out very well.
So for some of the processes that we do, working from home is just fine, meaning that they can be done from home. Some of the more creative processes require the kind of synergy that can only take place when I'm sitting next to you.
Yeah.
And so for those departments, they have to be together. I mean, the fact that they're not together, in fact, they mention frequently in chats all throughout the day that, oh, I wish I was sitting next to him, because right now this kind of the conversations that take place take so much longer to get a consensus for when we're not together. And so, yes, certain departments will benefit from this and will be able to work from home, and that's a great thing. Others are hurting because they are not able to work together, and they require a level of instant synergies and creativities that can only be achieved when I'm sitting next to that person and I have that person's attention and I can brainstorm. So it's a mixed bag. Yes, some departments, I should say, will thrive in a post corona environment where they're working from home. Others will, flock back to the office instantly, commute or no commute, because without the ability to interact, I just feel like I'm not getting anything done. So it is, believe me, it's on my mind, and I think it's on everybody's mind. I think everybody is thinking about this. What the next year or 2 year will look like. Certainly, if rents can be lessened by having smaller office space, well, that's something to think about, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Believe me, it is.
I've seen in our own company, the productivity has gone up only because the guys are not feeling tired while coming back, an hour and a half, one-way commute, and then hour and a half to go back, literally eat, sleep, come back next morning. Here they have a freedom of 14, 16 hours at their home. They can, they can play around with their time, get up early in the morning, finish half of the work, do their movies, do their lunch, whatever, take rest, couple of hours, then again, do their work for another 3-4 hours. We've seen the productivity has actually gone up quite a bit with the guys working from home as well.
Yeah, I'm curious about, I'm glad to hear you say that, because look, I'm wondering, and it's nice to hear somebody else speak about this, because we do wonder whether or not productivity for the same time, for the same work processes, we're seeing now the kind of numbers that you're talking about. What happens when they come back? Will they decrease? And if they do decrease, oh, well, we're going to have to give serious thought to everything you just talked about.
Yeah. There was another article which one of the CEOs in in India mentioned that previously, before this, there was no forced work from home. It was more like a voluntary kind of a thing, right? So they were never able to measure what is the exact productivity from work from home. Here in this case, everybody's working from home. So they are now able to measure within the peers, this person is able to do a little more work from home compared to this particular person. And what is the reason behind it? So they're able to do the analysis in the last 4-5 weeks or whatever is lockdown, and trying to figure out that people who are not able to work from home that well could have, children, maybe smaller children at home, a little more disturbance, no extra help. So the wife or the spouse is expecting a little extra help to do in the work zone as well. So they're trying to figure out these things and try and mitigate these problems as well. So it's a fun thing to, kind of get these analysis on a weekly basis.
Yeah, you're not kidding. That's really interesting. I am just really curious. I will sit down at the end of this week because, as you heard me describe earlier, that they're talking about returning to normalcy here by May the 4th, which is next Monday, for offices of less than 100 people. Or they'll have, in other words, if you have 100 people in your office, you could have them back to work. And so we're coming up with all kinds of ways right now to sort of accommodate that, and thinking about how that would look, whether we would have half the staff come in, or just, for 1 week and then bring the other half back.
Yeah.
All up in the air at this moment, but being thought about literally all day, because this is it. As I just said to you, next Monday, they're talking about return to what we call normal, whatever that means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, this is a great session. I'm pretty sure a lot of stock photographers and photographers around the world would have a lot of questions towards you, Mark, and I would love to do another session with you. I wanted to keep it short this time,
okay,
to make sure that the viewers have intense questions be asked next time as well. This was more like an introductory call as well, and I'm going to shoot you a few questions which might come our way.
Okay.
We could do another session in 10 days, 15 days time to look at that as well. But, I really appreciate your time, Mark. Really appreciate your effort towards getting this done as well. And thank you, and stay safe, sir.
Well, look, next time the coffee is on me back in New York. It was great seeing you this last time. I mean, look, it feels like yesterday, recognizing how far, huh?
It was a surprise because we met in New York when things were happening live.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
It was, and all my friends, my family, and my cousins, and my colleagues and employees saying, "You got lucky. You were right there." And I said,
"Imagine."
And we met what one of these big companies. Was surprised that there was a lot of staff over there, a lot of people over there. I'm glad you're safe.
Hey, we had no idea. You realize that? That's right. We were walking around acting totally normal. We had no idea that we were literally in the middle of this.
Yeah, and when I landed back in Dubai, and after New York, I traveled quite a bit. I went to Vegas and Chicago and other places as well, San Francisco, LA. There was nothing at that time. This was last week of February. When I landed back in Dubai, going back to Mumbai, I see a lot of people wearing masks at that time. So that was an alert time saying that something is going on, but it was still not that serious. When I landed back in Mumbai, still there were no questions asked. That was 1st of March. But
interesting.
But
I followed you also to Dubai like 2 weeks later, and things seemed semi-normal again. And then I went on to Singapore and came back here, and well, at that moment we already knew on the way back from Singapore that things were not good. So, you know, you and I literally were in the eye of this thing. Look at both of us, totally healthy, not even a cough, nothing. Lucky you.
Yeah. Yeah. Lucky you
Lucky
too.
us.
Glad you're safe,
Great.
and look forward to another talk.
Great, then. Thank you so much, Abhinash. We'll talk shortly. I'm looking forward to the next invitation.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay,
Bye-bye.